Hello everyone, my name is Damien Hine and I am the author of the Hearthmark Chronicles, a brand new epic fantasy trilogy which is being released in the year 2021. This week I'm reading an exclusive short story which tells the story of the Lightspark trial of one of the fan favourite characters, Vandria. If you open up the pages of the book you will not find it there because this is something brand new I have written for you. We're reading it over this week, or if you're watching afterwards you'll be able to watch it all at once. Lucky you. So the last 2 days we've been starting to introduce the idea of Vandria's trial. She is to face a terrifying beast known as the Dust Drake, and if she wishes to claim her Lightspark she must conquer this beast. So without much further ado, here comes part 3. A crisp breeze brushed Vandria's cheeks, sliding down her neck to bite at her core. She opened her eyes and instinctively crouched. Better to be small, so as to survey the terrain with less likelihood of being seen. Koros had landed her on an outcrop of rock. To her right, another mountain rose, though this one was a natural chestnut brown. Cracks and cliffs interspersed with the occasional fir tree climbing to its throat. The slopes, sliding into the valley, were greeted by a lapping sea of fir and conifer, which ran in peaks and troughs to the horizon. The voice of the wind whispered on the boughs, brushing the branches to and fro. There was, to her knowledge, no threat in sight. For now. She skulked forward, low, hidden, caught a glimpse of the sky, and her heart leapt into her throat. Rilder's grave. Suspended above was a pair of planets. The closest was twice the size of the moon and a shade darker than the last gasp of sunset. The second, flanking it and larger, was the blue of dawn over the sea. And where their contours met, the sky erupted into shades of indigo and mauve. One of her eyebrows rose. So this was one of the trials which took place in no discernible place on earth. Anything was possible. Drawing a deep breath, she pressed forwards. She felt her knives graze against her back as she went, and reached round with a hand. Yes, her stave was there too. The best move, she decided, was to scout out the terrain. The more she knew about her environment and her prey, the better chance she would have. Information, more than steel, would be her sharpest weapon. An hour passed, and more trees kept appearing round the mountain. The sun was on a trajectory with the pair of planets. She pursed her lips. If it passed behind them, this place would be plunged into darkness. How would that affect things? In effect, this place, whatever it was called, had not day and night, but 2 half-days for each turn of the sun. Yep, definitely far from Risiva. She set 3 fingers to the ground and caught her breath. Warmth. So far, the mountain felt the chill of the wind. Something was nearby, therefore, either below the surface or further round. Taking the stave in both hands, she inched forward. Silence. Stillness. Then, wait. With the wind came another sound, almost like it, except every few moments it reversed course to move in the opposite direction. There was a rhythm to it. In, out. In, out. If it was what she thought it was, then the drake was larger than any beast she'd hunted before. A blaze of light splashed across her mind, threatening to take her over. Instead, she forced herself to go still, still enough to hear her heart beating. There it was again. In, out. In, out. The breath of the dust drake. She had one advantage. The drake, as far as she knew, was unaware of her presence. If she could get close, study it, Perhaps there'd be a weakness. Further up the slope was a line of conifers. Camouflage. Careful not to disturb a stone, she made her way up. When she arrived, she placed a hand against one of the smooth trunks, set down her stave, and took a swig from her gourd. The air was cooler up here, and granted her a better viewing of her surroundings. Peering round, there were trees, and... For a moment she forgot to breathe. Curled at the bottom of the slope, in the mouth of a cave, was the dust drake. It had to be. If Koros had been reptilian, this was something else. A mass of midnight black flesh curled on the ground, a dark tail weaving round to complete the circle. Judging by the distance, the head alone was the size of a grizzly bear. Protruding from the end of the 4 legs were claws the length of hunting knives, bloodied at the tip, while wrapping round its torso were flaps of flesh thin enough to be nigh transparent. Even from here, she could hear its breath. In, out, in, out. The back of her throat burned, and a shudder passed from her shoulders to her shins. The dust drake. This was her trial, and if she did not find a way, she would be sparkless for the rest of her life. Come on, Vandria, you can do this. She clung tighter to the tree, pressing her fingers into the groove of the bark, and it felt like the same fingers were squeezing the space around her skull. Okay, she whispered. What do I do? What do I know? It was huge, gigantic, and her blades would probably do less than tickle it. Yes, but what else? The beast needed sleep. She weighed that for what it was worth, almost deciding to set it aside, until she recalled the pair of planets in the sky. If there were more hours of darkness than light here, did it make sense to be nocturnal? That would explain the colour of the scales. They would cloak the beast from sight for the majority of its waking hours. Pressing closer, the flaps of flesh around its torso caught her eye again. What could they be for? Protection? Some form of warmth in this cold climate? The sun was sliding towards the pair of planets fast. She had to do something before the beast awoke. Taking the stave, she started down the slope. There we have part 3. I hope you're ready for part 4, which will be coming tomorrow. See you then.